Robert Shulman was an American serial killer who was active during the early 1990s. He gained notoriety for his brutal crimes, which shocked the nation and highlighted the chilling capacity for violence within individuals. Here's detailed information about his life and the crimes he committed. Early life and background. Robert Shulman was born on April 17, 1954, in Hicksville, New York. He grew up on Long Island and, as a child, exhibited behavioral issues and a fascination with fire. Setting: criminal history and violence. Shulman's criminal history began with minor offenses, including arson and burglary. However, his crimes escalated to more violent acts over time. He was convicted of several counts of rape and was known to have violent tendencies, which should have raised concerns about his potential for further violence. The murders. Between 1991 and 1996, Shulman committed a series of gruesome murders. He targeted young women, often prostitutes or women in vulnerable situations, and lured them with promises of money or drugs. Shulman's modus operandi typically involved strangling or beating his victims to death. After killing them, he would dismember their bodies and dispose of the remains in various locations. He attempted to cover up his crimes by scattering body parts in different areas, making it difficult for authorities to link the cases initially. Discovery and arrest. Shulman's crimes came to the attention of law enforcement after a series of missing persons reports were filed and bodies began to be discovered. His capture was ultimately the result of diligent police work, as well as the use of forensic evidence, witness testimonies, and profiling techniques. Trial and sentencing. In 1999, Robert Shulman was put on trial for his heinous crimes. He was found guilty of multiple counts of murder, and on December 8, 1999, he was sentenced to death for the murders of 2 women. His case attracted media attention due to the brutality of his crimes and the shocking nature of his actions. Death and execution. Shulman spent several years on death row while his appeals were processed. However, he never faced execution. On April 13, 2006, Robert Shulman died in prison of natural causes, effectively preventing the state from carrying out his death sentence. Legacy. The case of Robert Shulman serves as a chilling reminder of the potential for violence within individuals and the horrors that some people are capable of inflicting on others. His crimes and the subsequent legal proceedings also sparked debates about the death penalty and the effectiveness of the criminal justice system. Shulman's case remains a disturbing chapter in true crime history, prompting discussions about the factors that drive individuals to commit such heinous acts and the challenges of preventing and addressing violent behavior within society. A couple of theories that have been proposed to explain what might have driven him to commit such brutal acts. 1. Power and control. One theory suggests that Shulman's crimes were driven by a need for power and control over his victims. Strangling, beating, and dismembering his victims could have been ways for him to exert dominance and authority, especially over vulnerable individuals like prostitutes. This theory aligns with the pattern seen in some serial killers who derive a sense of empowerment from their ability to dictate life and death. 2. Escalating fantasy and desensitization. Some serial killers develop violent fantasies that escalate over time. It's possible that Shulman's initial involvement in arson and burglaries eventually escalated to violence as he sought to live out his fantasies. Over time, he might have become desensitized to the pain he inflicted on others, leading him to commit increasingly gruesome acts without remorse. 3. Gratification from inflicting pain. Serial killers like Shulman might derive gratification from inflicting physical and emotional pain on their victims. The acts of torture, murder, and dismemberment could have provided him with a sick sense of pleasure and satisfaction, fulfilling dark desires that he couldn't obtain through conventional means. 4. Control over fear and vulnerability. Some serial killers seek to control and conquer their own feelings of fear. vulnerability, or inadequacy by inflicting these emotions onto others. Shulman's victims, often prostitutes or women in vulnerable situations, could have represented a way for him to exert control over their vulnerability and use it as a means of coping with his own insecurities. 5. Distorted views of women. Given that Shulman targeted women, there's speculation that his crimes were driven by distorted views of women. He might have held resentments or hatred towards women, possibly due to past experiences or psychological factors, leading him to target them in his violent acts. 6. Psychological disorders. Shulman's propensity for violence and brutality could have been influenced by underlying psychological disorders, such as antisocial personality disorder or sadistic tendencies. These disorders can contribute to a lack of empathy, remorse, and an inability to comprehend the suffering they inflict on others. It's important to note that these theories are speculative and based on psychological and criminological perspectives. The true motivations behind Robert Shulman's crimes may never be fully understood, as the complexities of human behavior and the interplay of various psychological, environmental, and personal factors that drive such actions can be difficult to pinpoint definitively. Some interesting facts about Robert Shulman. Family troubles. Shulman came from a troubled family background, with his parents divorcing when he was young. He had a strained relationship with his father and was reportedly abused by him during his childhood. Early criminal activities. Before becoming a serial killer, Shulman had a history of criminal activities. He was involved in arson and burglary during his teenage years, indicating early signs of deviant behavior. Victim selection. Shulman's victims were often vulnerable individuals, such as prostitutes and women in compromised situations. He targeted those who might not be readily missed, allowing him to continue his crimes for a period without attracting much attention. Pattern of behavior. Shulman followed a pattern in his crimes, luring his victims with promises of money or drugs before subjecting them to torture, murder, and dismemberment. His methods were consistent, suggesting a ritualistic aspect to his actions. Dismemberment and disposal. After murdering his victims, Shulman would dismember their bodies and scatter the remains in different locations. This gruesome technique was an attempt to hinder the identification and linkage of his crimes. Death sentence. Shulman was sentenced to death in 1999 for the murders of 2 women. His case highlighted debates about the death penalty's effectiveness and ethical considerations surrounding capital punishment. Natural death. Despite his death sentence, Shulman never faced execution. He died in prison on April 13, 2006, due to natural causes, which prevented the state from carrying out his death sentence. Lack of remorse. Shulman showed a disturbing lack of remorse for his actions. During his trial, he reportedly displayed a cold and detached demeanor, further emphasizing his lack of empathy for his victims. Media attention. Shulman's crimes and trial received significant media attention due to their shocking nature and the disturbing details of his crimes. His case was covered in true crime documentaries and news outlets. Serial killer art. Shulman was known to create artwork while in prison. Some of his drawings and paintings depicted dark and violent themes, offering insight into his twisted mindset. Criminal profiling. The study of cases like Robert Shulman's has contributed to advancements in criminal profiling, helping law enforcement professionals identify patterns and traits associated with serial killers. Psychological insights. Shulman's case continues to be analyzed by psychologists and criminologists to understand the complex interplay of factors that contribute to extreme violence and the lack of empathy seen in serial killers. The case of Robert Shulman serves as a haunting reminder of the darkest aspects of human nature and the complexity of understanding the motivations behind serial killers' actions. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of the intriguing tale. If you enjoyed this video and found the information fascinating, we encourage you to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on more engaging content.